Welcome to 6 Months Later, the podcast 180 days in the making, where we talk to interesting people about their lives and hopes for the future. And then we talk to them again in 6 months' time to check in, see how they're doing. My name is Tara Newton Wordsworth. I am joined, as always, by my co-host,
Matthew Shadorn.
Maddie. How you doing?
I thought we agreed we weren't going to call me Maddie.
Sorry. I felt like I went Maddie Moo, and that was what we agreed not to say.
We agreed on that, but I felt like it was implied that we weren't, that the Maddie was the real problem with that.
Okay, my apologies. Matthew, how are things?
Yes. Things are good. I'm hanging out, maxing and relaxing, chilling.
Wow, great.
No, the big news this week is I got my absentee ballot yesterday.
Wow.
So I'm going to mail that off tomorrow. Going to vote.
Oh my
Need
gosh.
to decide who to vote for.
But you know that like the mail-in voting, it's all like a scam and won't work or whatever. So
I believe everything that comes through the mail. I believe that chain letter I got that time. I wrote all those chain letters, and I've had nothing but good luck since. So
I really hope that your vote does count, and I hope
me too.
You make the right decision when you're voting, buddy. I'm
going to put some thought. I haven't really thought about it for the last 4 years, who I was going to vote for. But I think tomorrow I'm really just going to knuckle down and really do some research on these candidates.
Great.
Yeah. Was it David Trump?
No, we've never discussed him before on this podcast.
That's never come up before.
It's not been like the impending doom gloom conversation that I feel like we've had about 40 times now, even though we've not done that many podcasts. But
yeah.
Oh, well, that's exciting. That's great. Anything else happening this week?
No, it's been a pretty slow week. I've got a lot of lumber coming tomorrow, which is exciting. Gonna build some things. I put a roof on my shed. This is all home stuff that I'm gonna build a closet with the lumber. Anyways, what's new with you, Tara?
Wow, that sounds exciting. I really realized sort of where we're at, like in our lives tonight when we got home and my husband was just like, I was like, oh, how were you like when we were out? What happened? And he was like, well, I went out and I bought something that I've been thinking about getting in the past. And, I never did. And I was like, oh, what was it? And he was like, garam masala, the spice. I see it in everything so often, when I'm looking in recipes, it comes up again and again. And I was like, wow, that is so exciting because like totally need it sometimes, like cooking chili. But after I said like, that's so exciting, I was just like, oh my God, like what has happened to our lives?
Is exciting the word?
Yeah.
No. What was it? Was he really bold about it? It's like, you've been holding me back long enough, Tara. I'm going to be my true self. All right. Yep. I'm getting garam masala.
But also the joy of walking around Tesco. Like when I walk around Tesco on my own now, it genuinely feels like a holiday. Like that's how I feel. I feel as excited going to Tesco and walking around like child free for about 20 minutes as I would like going to like Lanzarote for a weekend or something.
You're really bumming me out about parenthood.
Yeah, I'm really sorry, man. It's been a tough week. That's all I can say in that department. I think Charlie's like really not wanting to go to nursery, and it's just a nightmare. Like your children kicking and screaming, and like you meant to leave them, and they try and like pull them off you. And they're like, he's fine. And he's like screaming. And you're like, he just doesn't seem fine, Like, and, oh, God.
So wait, is this his first time to nursery?
It's his first time going back since lockdown. So I think it's like, he had sort of 6 months of not going. And then, I think he just so adapted to our new way of life. And anyway, I don't know. I definitely feel tempted to kind of like just homeschool him, but that's what my parents did with me. I think they must have been like, oh, she seems really anxious going to school. And then I was homeschooled for 5 years and look how that turned out, Matt. So I'm not doing that.
It did not. Yeah. Oof. Oh my God. Just thought of it. Because you're a very nice person, but you're not very bright.
Thank you, Matt. I would say not very together. I mean, bright.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess it's you have the kind of like, you are intelligent, but it's the kind of like raw unsullied intelligence by any kind of knowledge or information. So it's like you have kind of this kind of pure intelligence, which is really quite a beautiful and rare thing. But it's like it's not
like honed,
like
it's
messed
not like...
up. Yeah. It's not like you have lots of like facts and things just kind of like rattling around in your brain, getting in the way of just the pure intelligence that comes out. And I think that's a beautiful
Matt. That's really kind.
I'm just gonna build you
Ironically,
up.
when I did go to high school, I was like super obsessed with academia. And then I had like a sort of like an anxiety attack in year 11 when I didn't get an academic achievement award, and I like couldn't come out from under my desk for like a few days. It was intense.
Wait, your desk in the school?
Boarding school that I was at.
Oh. You were in a boarding school?
For high school, yeah. Because I grew up in outback Australia. Like the nearest high school was like a 3-hour drive every day. So
you were basically living like Picnic at Hanging Rock then?
Essentially, yes. I mean, there are a lot of places like that. Oh my God, Picnic at Hanging Rock. That is such an amazing unsolved mystery. Okay, we're getting off track. We're going to be talking to an amazing guest today. I'm super excited to talk to her.
Yeah.
Caitlin Durante.
Yes.
American podcaster extraordinaire. It's going to be fun to talk to her. I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it too. I'm a big fan of her podcast. So.
Oh wait, we haven't talked about the future.
The future. Oh my gosh.
What do you think's happening in 6 months' time?
Beginning of April, just clear skies and finished closets in my house. And
oh my God.
That's just the kind of thing. All the projects that I'm planning on doing this week will be done.
Wow, that's great. I've got to stop saying wow. I've said it so many times already.
I'm pretty impressive, so it's pretty. I can see why you would say
I
wow.
am constantly awestruck. Well, I mean, yeah, that's great. So 6 months' time, April, birds are going to be singing. It's going to be beautiful. Oh, it's, that feeling of spring, like when you hear the bees buzzing and you can feel the warmth coming back to the air. It's kind of like, it's like this, the winter ending in Narnia, like that feeling when like, not a Narnia fan.
Yeah, no, like you just killed a witch. And...
the witch is dead. Like it's just so beautiful.
Right.
So I'm super excited for that period of time.
Speaking of Narnia, where do you fall on Turkish Delight? Because in the books, it makes it sound like it's really great. And then every time I've had it, it's the most disgusting treat ever.
And it really like gets just like stuck in your teeth.
It's just awful. Yeah. If anybody out there's ever read the Narnia books and been like, this Turkish Delight sounds pretty great, it's not. It's a dirty trick. Like, I don't want to malign all the people of Turkey, but I don't know. They need to get their dessert game on point because this is disgusting.
The Narnia one, though, just to be clear, was like magic or whatever. Like it was enchanted or had a spell placed on it.
It would have to be.
Yeah, I love it.
Anyways, let's get to our guest.
Yay! Very excited to be joined by comedian and co-host of the very popular podcast, the Bechdelcast, Caitlin Durante.
Yes, hello. You did it.
I was really nervous about saying your last name because I don't know how to speak apparently.
I feel like you were really drawing it out and you were like, she's the host of the podcast that is very popular and we all know the name and it is the...
I had that real thing where you're like, oh no, I don't want to do this. It's happening right now. Like where you're kind of like having an outer body experience while saying something where you're like, I wish this wasn't happening right now. But anyway, we're through that.
Yeah, you nailed it. It's great. The other thing about my last name is that I grew up pronouncing it an entirely different way. And then when I graduated college and like decided to reinvent myself, I was like, no, I'm going to pronounce it this way. I grew up pronouncing it Durante, which I don't like the sound of, and I don't like that pronunciation. So I was like, you know what? I'm a new person. I'm out in the world. I'm an independent adult now. It's Durante.
Right.
Wow, that's so cool that you decided that.
You didn't want to live in the shadow of your father, Jimmy Durante.
Exactly. my father, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do your parents pronounce it?
They pronounce it Durante, the way that I had been pronouncing it through, my adolescence.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, you know what? This sounds bad. This sounds like just like a very like America version of like how you would pronounce an Italian last name. So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to get a little closer to what it should be.
A little continental.
That's nice.
Yeah.
It's like, do you have Italian, like, are you Italian?
Yeah, not even predominantly. I think I'm mostly like British, Scottish, Irish, but I did Ancestry.com, not to brag.
Oh, okay.
But I'm Italian on my my father's side.
Oh, cool. Okay. So it's quite nice as like a nod to your heritage. Like, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also it's just a cool way of saying it. So
that was my main motivation. I was like, I don't like, because then people would be like, hey, Durante. And I'm like, oh, it's just like, it sounds horrible to my ears. So
anyways, Caitlin, how are you today? Sorry.
No, this whole episode should be about my last name. Please and thank you. No.
Let's talk about the D now. Let's get into like why. Just go letter by letter.
Yeah. No, I'm doing well, I suppose, all things considered. It's fine. It's bad out there, but it's fine.
And you're living in LA at the moment.
I am, yes.
And how's that?
Well, we're still in the midst of a heavy quarantine. The other fun thing about this region is that all of our forests are on fire, thanks to climate change and global warming. So
you said it's like all our forests are on fire, so it's nice and cozy warm.
So it's toasty. The air is poisonous. I have a headache all the time. It's, I think, what was the latest number? It's millions of acres of forests have burned in these fires all across the west coast of the U.S. So yeah, that's really bad. That's one of many things that's, not doing so great right now in the world.
Oh my gosh, man. That's intense. So you're really going through and what does the quarantine, what does that look like over there at the moment? What are the sort of rules?
A lot of establishments are still shut down. As far as a lot of just retail stores, they're still closed. I think they're trying to reopen things, but not with very bad results. So it's still, there's just nothing has been done to really get control of the situation.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm so sorry to hear that. I mean, not that it's really any better.
We live in Oxford. I'm pretty much expecting the same thing because the university gets back into session next week, and so I think that it'll be the same. Because turns out that 18 to 20-year-olds, they're pretty stupid. And
turns out they are maybe a little careless or reckless.
Yeah, maybe sometimes. They have a misunderstanding of their own mortality and
yes,
risks and things. And so.
Yeah, I definitely don't think there's that awareness. It's like we went past a skate park the other day and there were loads of teenagers all sort of, cuddling and lying all over each other. And there was definitely no social distancing. It's funny when you get to an age where you're like, I don't feel like it was that long ago, but suddenly you look at people that age and you're like, children of today,
did you just yell out the window of your car? You're just like, leave some room for the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I think I'm definitely feeling much older these days. Anyway, what are you saying, Matt? What?
No, because we all live like shut-ins, like elderly shut-ins. So it's like...
If I had a lawn, I would be telling children to get off of it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, listen, everybody these days just wants to be the only joy you have left is sitting under a cozy blanket with a nice cup of tea. That's all you have left in this world. There's nothing else.
Truly.
And you're like, ooh, Great British Bake Off's back. Yay.
I'm so excited about that, Matt. Don't rain on Great British.
No, I know. That's why this is
it's one of the few joys in my life right now. It was funny when you were speaking, actually. It felt I had this weird surreal moment where I was like, oh my God, I can't believe we're living in this world right now.
Yeah, sorry to remind you that the hellscape we live in.
We either picked a really great time or a really terrible time to force people to come on and think about their lives now and then their lives in the future.
Right. Isn't everyone just sort of saying the same thing where it's like, yep, It's a hellscape.
It is the beginning of every conversation, but so don't be surprised if when you listen back to this, I've cut a large portion of this out. So if you feel like you need to cry, I will cut that out.
No, leave it in.
We want the raw emotions.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, so Caitlin, so what is your day like? Do you still have day job? You're a teacher, right? You teach?
Yeah, so I teach online screenwriting classes. So for anyone listening who wants to find out more about those, they're very accessible. But yeah, so that is more of like a part-time thing I'm doing. And then Jamie and I are still recording episodes of the Bechdelcast, and between like all the prep and the recording and the editing I do for that's my full-time job. So okay. I'm lucky to still be working and staying busy, and luckily my mind is occupied a lot of the time, and I'm not just dwelling in the despair. I save that for nighttime. I save that for when I'm trying to fall asleep, and then sure. Those then I never sleep.
When you're just up at 2 a.m, doom scrolling through Facebook, and well, that's really cool.
When did you move to LA, and what was the reason for moving to LA?
I just celebrated my 6-year anniversary here, and I moved because I had just graduated my master's program in screenwriting, which is what I teach my online writing classes in. So I do have a master's degree in screenwriting.
Wow, that is fascinating. Because I listen to your podcast so much, and that has never come up.
I would never bring it up.
Why would you bring it up? It came up organically.
It did. So I was like, well, I have this screenwriting degree. I better go to Hollywood and try to do something with it, which I done that? Not exactly. Not really. Well, I guess, like the things I'm doing are related to it, but I'm not necessarily like actively trying to like sell screenplays at the moment. We'll see how I feel.
But then the podcast is super popular. Like, how do you feel about, like, how did you expect it to sort of take off so much? And are you enjoying it still?
I do still love doing it. I'm really like proud of the work we've done. I'm really happy with how it's grown. Like our conversations have gotten more sort of sophisticated and intersectional and inclusive throughout the years. And I like the direction it's going. I didn't really ever expect that it would take off. And I still don't really have a handle on like how many people listen to it, or like how many people know about it. But so I get, is it popular? I don't even know.
Well, we were talking before we got on. You came to London and did 2 shows, and I was like, "Oh, I'll get tickets for this." I slept on it for like a week or 2, and then when I tried to get tickets, they were all sold out. Like you'd sold out 2 shows, and congratulations for you. Sucked for
Thank
me.
you so much. Well, we'll come back someday in 5 years when this pandemic is hopefully over by then, and we'll do more shows in London.
How did the shows go in London?
Really well. They were super fun. We covered Pixar's Brave and The Favorite. We were like, we got to get some very, like UK movies to cover. And it was a blast.
Wow.
Very nice.
Man, I've got to, it wasn't just live. Like I'm assuming that you recorded them as well. Did you record them?
Yes, we recorded the audio and then released them as episodes on the podcast.
Oh, cool. Because I'll definitely check out Brave. I don't know why, but I found that probably one of the, I don't know, it just annoyed me a bit, that film.
It is one of Pixar's, I really wish I liked it more than I do. And I just don't. It's like not that great of a film.
It's the one where the mum turns into a bear, right? We are talking about this. Yeah. There was something about it that just didn't quite work for me. I get I definitely get what they were trying to do. And I think, I take my hat off to them with what they were trying to achieve.
It is. And I think that you guys hit on this a lot in the podcast, which I thought was very interesting. And where you talk about how it was a female director, and she was kind of trying to write this story about her daughter.
Yeah.
And then she got kicked off by John Lasseter, who later turned out was maybe not great with women. And
maybe not.
And maybe those 2 things were related. Who could say?
Shrug.
Yeah. And then and then it became like a weird remake of a different Disney movie, Brother Bear or whatever, which has exactly the same plot.
Yeah, I haven't seen Brother Bear, but I'm just like, I'll skip that one.
Yeah.
If you're gonna have an animated or a movie about an animated bear, it better be Paddington, or I don't want to hear about it.
Oh, I love Paddington so much.
Can I say so I'm a big fan of your work, and then Tara wasn't as familiar, so I sent her your Wikipedia page, and the last line of the top paragraph on your Wikipedia page is champion of the movie Paddington Bear or something like that.
Yeah, well, there's a story behind that if you want to hear it.
Sure. You've been editing your own Wikipedia page? Is that the same?
No, but I should, because I'm not very happy with how it is right now. Someone had set up a Wikipedia page for me, and I think they must just have gotten information from different things I've said on the Bechdelcast, but they were like, I was just like, what is this? Is so vague, or like some of this isn't exactly correct. So then I did this like Instagram live show where I, for the first time ever, read my Wikipedia page and sort of commented on how accurate or inaccurate the information was. Nice. And then based on that, someone else went in and edited my page and then put in the Paddington thing. So I mean, that part is absolutely correct. I'm a huge champion of Paddington 1 and 2, but I still am like, I need to make this more reflective of who I am, I guess. I don't know who. Yeah.
Do you feel like your Paddington love is like core to your being, or is it something you bring up?
Honestly, yes.
Yeah.
I feel like I've cultivated an entire personality around loving Paddington. You can't here, let me shift my camera. Oh no, you can't see it, but on my bookshelf behind me there is a Paddington like stuffed bear.
I would say people can't see, but Caitlin is wearing a blue duffel coat and a red hat.
And I'm eating marmalade as we speak.
She's eating marmalade. Just her hands out of the jar. Yes. Did you go when you were in London, Caitlin? Did you go to Paddington Station? Did you see?
I deliberately got an Airbnb right next to Paddington Station, and then I went on this walking tour that took you all around to different filming locations for the Paddington movies. It took you around to all the little, not all of them, but several of the little Paddington statues that are around the city. You walk past like Michael Bond's house. And just like, it was everything Paddington. It like takes you. Oh, and you could go to where I don't know London well enough, but whatever area that MacGruber's shop is in, like that little street, different places like that.
I want to say it's in Camden, but I forget. I don't know. I don't know London that well either.
It might have been Notting Hill. Is that a place, or is that just a movie? Anyway,
well, it is a place. Maybe you're thinking because Hugh Grant was in both.
Right? Wild.
Okay, just quickly, do you prefer 1 or 2?
I prefer 2. But I think that 1 is essential for setting everything up. And I still find myself very emotionally riveted by the first movie. Like the first 15 or so minutes, I bawl my eyes out just the entire time because it's the uncle, and then he has to go, and then his Aunt Lucy is like, you have to go to London. He's like, but what if they don't even like bears? And then you're like, oh my God, and then he arrives at the station. And you see the little tag around his neck, and it says, "Please look after this bear," because you're like, "Oh no, he needs someone to love him." And I'm just like weeping. So that, and then like I think it's still a really well crafted, terrific, wonderful movie. And like my expectations were kind of low for Paddington 2 because when I saw the trailers, I think they were catering to like the children that this movie is intended for. So it was a lot
they don't understand.
So it was a lot of the kind of physical slapsticky humor that I saw in the trailer, and I was like, oh no, is this going to be kind of bad? And so I went in with very low expectations, but I ended up seeing it 4 times in theaters because I was like, this is the best movie I've ever seen. This is such an amazingly crafted story and like beautifully shot and acted movie that
I cry so much in Paddington 2. I absolutely adore it. I think it's that I cry in the beginning when they catch him in the water, and he's headed towards the waterfall, and then I also cry in that moment where it looks like he's like accepted his own death. You're just like, this is a children's movie. There's like that look of recognition of like, I guess this is, like, oh my God.
That's the beauty of this writing, like the screenwriting, though, where intellectually we as the audience know that this movie is not going to kill off the protagonist in a children's movie. Like, we know that that's not going to happen, but like emotionally, we don't know that. So it's like our intellectual brain and like our logical brain and our emotional brain, like having completely different experiences. And, but yeah, you're just like crying because he's like underwater and you're like, yeah, he's probably going to die right now. And you're just weeping. And then
that horrible feeling of like not being able to help him, like that she's just there, like trying to do whatever she can. And it's just like that. Because it goes on for ages. Like, you're just like, oh my God, like he's genuinely gonna die. Like,
oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think everything I watch these days makes me feel more emotional. Like, I feel like I have to watch everything I watch these days, because just the world is such chaos, has to be fairly lighthearted. And I can't watch anything that's like very serious or very heavy. I became obsessed with this. There's a cartoon on Netflix called Cupcake and Dino General Services. And it's just about two brothers. One is a cupcake and one is a dinosaur. And they run a nice little general services business. And they have fun adventures. And they're nice to each other. And it's nice.
That sounds like that's the escapist media we all need right now.
It is the best. I was like, I'm obsessed with this. When they made a season 2, I was like, I was so excited. I bought a bootleg t-shirt. I'm all in Chicken Dino General Services.
Oh, you are so sweet. That is really gorgeous.
Yes. So Caitlin, like what is going on in your life? Like, what are you really into? Not necessarily in your job, or are you just like obsessed with these days? Like, what's something that's like your passion these days? What's like?
Sure. Well, I am trying to learn Spanish. So that's something I'm really excited about and have been working at steadily. I still can't speak it, so I can't demonstrate any progress I've made.
Bueno.
But I have a Spanish tutor, and I'm like working a little like
really?
at Duolingo, kind of little by little.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, that's something I'm trying to do to kind of enrich my life. And then it's just as far as like stuff that doesn't feel like homework, that is just like pure enjoyment, is just I'm watching a ton of movies, revisiting movies that bring me comfort or that like I grew up with and bring that sort of element of nostalgia and familiarity. Like I'm always watching Josie and the Pussycats. I make time for it like once a month. I rewatch Titanic constantly because even though it is a tragic movie, it's brings me comfort having seen it upwards of 100 times now.
Wow.
The Paddington movies, of course. Yeah.
When you watch Titanic, are you ever like, I bet he gets out of it this time?
Okay. Not to keep talking about screenwriting, but the movie handles tension so well. And this is what Paddington 2 does, and this is what Toy Story 3 does, where that moment where you're just like, is it going to happen? Are they going to die in the incinerator? Is Paddington going to drown? Is Titanic going to hit the iceberg? Like, intellectually, like historically, we know that Titanic does indeed hit the iceberg, but the story handles tension so well that you're like, maybe this time it'll veer off a little bit further to the left. It won't.
I know it's coming. Why don't they know it's coming?
This is going to be the nice version of Titanic.
Oh, that would be nice. Yeah.
I was gonna say, wouldn't it be great if there's a director's cut where they miss the iceberg and then they just get off in New York and they have a great life together?
Oh my God, that'd be so nice.
I've often thought about what that would look like, and I'm like, okay, Rose and Jack would spend like a week together and they would end up hating each other because Jack kind of sucks and Rose also kind of sucks. So I think they like would not be happy with each other. They're not compatible, and I think they would go their separate ways after like a week or so. Yeah.
Really?
People think that this is like this like amazing love story, these star-crossed lovers who find each other and they're just meant to be together. And it's like, realistically, what do they even have in common? It's just, they're just like horny because they're on vacation, they're on this cruise, and
they're both like 17.
They're both young, right? They're young. They don't know what life is like. Rose is basically just like, I need to get away from my horrible fiance who like I'm engaged to because I have no other choice. And, Jack is just sort of like this manic pixie dream boy who's like, oh, just whatever. I'm just a tumbleweed blowing in the wind. And they just like have such different lives and perspectives. And I just don't think they would actually work as a couple. I think Fabrizio should have been the one that Rose kissed also, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah.
Wow.
I said
Team
it.
Fabrizio over there.
Exactly. Probably.
There's a big difference between falling in love though and like an actual long-term relationship. But we won't we won't go into that.
Sure,
It's like basically this is just a session about how you gotta keep the spark alive.
I don't know. Yeah.
But what are you writing anything at the moment, screenplay wise?
Well, that's a great question. Not as much as I should, although.
Great question. Shut up.
I don't want to talk about it. No, what was good about me being in school is that it held me accountable to write things, and now I don't have anything to hold me accountable, which is why I just signed up for a pilot writing class, which is another thing that, one of the things I'm kind of looking forward to for the future, for the near future, because I know that because I paid money for it and I have deadlines now, people expecting things of me, I will actually write something. So looking forward to that. But yeah, I'm like the classes it's weird. I teach writing classes, but then I can't even do the thing that I'm teaching because I'm just like, well, no one's expecting. I'm expecting something of them, but no one's expecting anything of me. So,
well, this podcast is a really good opportunity to actually give yourself accountability because in 6 months' time, we're going to be checking in to make sure you've done it.
Please do.
And we're going to be doing a live reading of your script.
Great. Perfect.
Which we're, so that'll be exciting.
So you could potentially say, like, as in, if there's something that you want to, because obviously you can make some predictions for the future, and part of that can be what you would like to do with your script that you're writing / gonna write.
That's true. Which, let's see, I predict in 6 months, I think that I will have finished maybe even the second or third draft of it. I'm hoping.
Oh wow, exciting!
Oh, wow.
And maybe by that point I will have started, who knows, trying to shop it around to all of the industry people who I don't know and would have to figure out how I can talk to them and get them to read my stuff. But that's that'll be a kind of prediction / goal that I'll set for myself.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing about how it's gone and that it's been picked up, by a massive TV channel / producer.
Yeah, it's amazing how Netflix wants to produce my as yet unwritten series.
I know. It was amazing. I was scrolling through Netflix and it was like Untitled Caitlin Durante Project.
Coming
2021. And I was like, wow. I can't believe you haven't talked about it more in this podcast, but it's all right.
Okay, so you've got your screenplay, what you want to do with it. What else are we doing in terms of like predictions for the future? Have you've finished on what you said before, Matt, the thing of like, what are you up to now? What are you excited about now?
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
We're still new at this. We haven't been doing it for years.
It's been a long day.
We built ourselves a premise where we have to do this for 6 months before we can ever release a single one.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
This is a great premise.
Yeah, as a podcasting professional, how are we doing?
You're doing great.
Don't even say
So in 6 months, personally, you want to learn Spanish and finish your screenplay, your pilot script. I assume bilingual pilot script.
It'll be written in fluent Spanish.
Your telenovela.
Right. My goals, I'm going to set more realistic goals for my Spanish learning, which is that I will have learned slightly more than I know now. I don't expect to have any sort of fluency in 6 months. I think I would have to, maybe I'll move over to Europe. Maybe I'll spend some time in Madrid. Just kidding. You can't. I can't travel. I cannot leave the country because of our horrible leadership.
Americans are not welcome here.
I don't blame you for saying that. The other thing, I have a prediction to bring it back to Paddington.
Okay.
Nice.
Because again, this is the personality that I've cultivated is around Paddington. Paddington 3 is supposed to be coming out in 2021, according to IMDb.
What?
I don't know how.
Is this an exclusive?
I don't know this. I have no information, but I do have a lot of wild predictions. No information has been really released about the plot or the cast or anything like that. And it might not actually come out in 2021 because productions have not been going forward and things haven't been filmed at the same rate that they were pre-quarantine. But let's say that by the time in 6 months, maybe I have high hopes that maybe the plot or like kind of the general premise and some of the cast has been announced for Paddington 3. Here's my prediction.
Okay. I'm excited by this prediction. I'm really edge of my seat.
I think the villain, I have a list of people who I think it could be, and I'll try to narrow it down to one. I think it might be someone. I mean, Idris Elba plays a good movie villain, and it's always like a British, or I guess Nicole Kidman's Australian, but someone who can do a convincing British accent, I guess, is always the villain in the Paddington.
Okay.
So Idris Elba, I think Sean Bean plays a great movie villain, and he's British. Let's see, Liam Neeson, I think, could be a good pick. Judi Dench. Hello, where is she in the Paddington movies? I think that Rachel Weisz could be a good villain. Colin Firth, maybe even.
Oh yeah.
Especially because he originally voiced Paddington, and they realized that his voice didn't sound quite right. It didn't quite work, so then they had to recast him as Ben Whishaw. So it'd be nice to kind of bring him back into the franchise as a character. I think though that also you've got Ralph Fiennes, who he's the ultimate
he's
British
great.
movie Voldemort villain, but I think I'm gonna land. Here's my prediction. I think they're gonna bring in Ewan McGregor.
Whoa.
As the villain.
No, he can't be a villain. He's too lovely.
But he was a villain in Birds of Prey.
Birds of Prey, right?
Yeah. And he did a pretty good job. So
and kind of in Shallow Grave too.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Oh, it's really good.
All right.
That's Ewan McGregor when he's very young and handsome, and also is just very good.
He's such a good actor. I mean, he could do anything. So So if you have to narrow it down to one, then
I think my prediction will be Ewan McGregor has been announced as the villain in Paddington 3.
Really?
Wow.
Do you think do you want to guess what type of villain? Because the first villain was an evil taxidermist, and the second one was an evil actor trying to get a fortune. Do you think evil land developer?
Oh, well, that brings me to my prediction for the premise, which is I hope. Here's what I hope Paddington 3 is about. I hope it's about defunding the police, which might not even be a thing that needs to happen in the UK. But
it's not that.
Okay, good. It's certainly a thing that needs to happen in the US. So I think that Ewan McGregor is going to be this zany constable or something.
They call them bobbies over here.
Sorry. And Paddington's gonna have to take him down.
Wow. Okay. I do because the last Paddington really had a strong message about prison reform.
Yes.
And the need for skills-based reform and treating prisoners with dignity.
Yeah, rehabilitation versus punishment. And
exactly.
And the first Paddington movie is allegorical for an immigrant's experience and so I think there's always a strong social message.
And as an immigrant living in the UK who arrived at a train station naked with a hat on, I 100% agree. That is like totally my experience.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Amazing. I'm so grateful that was like a really highly specific prediction. I really appreciate you putting that much effort into the prediction.
So excited.
You're welcome. No, I'm kidding.
It's going to be so great if that stuff, if any,
oh my gosh,
if any of it comes through.
Do you think, have you reached out to the people who make Paddington and you're like, I do have a screenwriting degree if you guys need help?
Those movies are so well written that I'm like, I don't have the skills. I'm not good enough. I would just ruin a Paddington movie. I couldn't do it justice.
You know, when I first saw the trailer for Paddington, I was like, oh my God, this looks terrible. And then I had heard like so many good things. I think I really hadn't really. And then like the second one came out and people were like, no, the first one's amazing. And the second one's even better. And I was like, really? And I checked them out and I was like, holy fuck. Like these are so good. It's amazing how good they are.
It is.
And how
people sleep on them. People every time I'm like, the Paddington movies are like some of my favorite movies ever. And they're like, really? Those kids movies? And it's like, don't you dare reduce Paddington that way. Yeah, they're amazing.
I don't know how they do it, but they're like incredibly delightful and just pure joy. And and if you're feeling down in this time of quarantine, I highly recommend putting on the Paddington movies and just having yourself a real nice night.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to watch them back to back, but it's fun.
We have this thing that we do at the end of every podcast, which is at the end of this half session of the podcast, where basically you start a joke or a sentence and then you finish it when you come in for your next session, because obviously through the miracle of editing, this will go seamlessly into the next 6 months. So if you want to have a think for a moment about a sentence or a joke that you want to set up and then finish in 6 months.
Okay.
But you've got 6 months to think of the ending.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. How about this? There's sort of like it's like an improv game joke premise sort of thing that starts with like, dating me is like blank. So I'm just going to kind of borrow that. So I'll say something like this. Dating me is like dating a glass of whiskey, ... It will make you feel terrible the next day.
Wow.
That's really the best I could come up with. I am not feeling great about it. I don't feel great about the setup. I don't feel great about the punchline.
It sounds like you don't feel great about yourself.
I don't feel great about myself.
You shouldn't feel bad about yourself. Let's address your self-esteem. How's your self-esteem doing, Caitlin?
It's actually, it's okay, especially because since we last spoke, I have started on antidepressants.
Sweet.
Out here trying to normalize mental health, out here getting my depression and anxiety and insomnia under control.
All right.
So,
how's it going?
It's going, I'm sleeping a lot better.
Nice.
And feeling generally less bad.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I'm glad to hear it. Yeah.
How long have you been on
the punchline to that joke aside, feeling pretty good about yourself.
How long have you been taking the antidepressant?
Oh, about 2 months now, I think. So
okay, cool.
Kind of new, but
how fast do they normally start working?
So to help with like because I'm taking a specific kind that is also sort of like a sedative, so like you're supposed to take it at night right before you go to bed to help you sleep. That kind of kicks in right away. The effects of that is like I've noticed like from the onset of it. But as far as how effective it is at an antidepressant, that takes a little bit longer. So I think I'm still kind of like my body's like calibrating to that a bit, but I'm definitely sleeping better. So that's a plus.
That's key. Yeah. I mean, I think being able to sleep well, especially now that I don't sleep very well anymore.
It's really hard.
We just had a baby. So 2 months ago we had a baby. So.
Wow. Congrats.
Yeah. So we got my wife and I have a little he's a whatchamacall baby.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
He's one of those you've seen him in the movies and stuff.
Like a tiny adult.
He's like a little adult, right? Yeah. But he's like It's so weird. It's like, but you know how most adults can use a bathroom, like at will.
Mm-hmm, sure.
He can't.
What?
And somehow that's my responsibility. Caitlin, how have you been the last 6 months? How, everything?
Oh, gee whiz. I've been...
Not as many fires as the last time we talked?
The fires are under control. I honestly meant to go and look up, because I feel like in California, at least, there's just never not something on fire in the wilderness, but it's not as much of a crisis. It's not the giant crisis it was before. So fires are under control. I'm doing pretty well. Things appear to be looking up in terms of, COVID-19 pandemic stuff. Mm-hmm. Vaccines are being distributed, etc. Yeah, so things are not so bad. And that's how I have to frame it. Things are not so terrible right
not
now.
So bad, raves Caitlin Durante. So let's just run down some of the things we were talking about 6 months ago as far as the future. Let's start off with Paddington 3 news.
Oh, yes. Okay, so...
I heard it was in production. But I don't know if I've heard much. I meant to double check today what the latest celebrity gossip is. But
right. Last news I heard that it was greenlit, as in officially go for production. I don't know if they've started production yet, or if it's just if it's still in development or pre-production, but it's a sure thing. So that's exciting. I cannot believe they did not announce Ewan McGregor as the villain.
Very disappointing.
How dare they? But yeah,
they want to save it for Comic-Con. They want to make that big announcement.
Yeah, fair. That's fair. So yeah, I'm very pleased that we're getting. And also, I went back and listened to the audio from 6 months ago, and I am embarrassed, not regretful, but indeed embarrassed about how much I talked about Paddington.
Do you need me to cut some of that out before we put it out?
I mean, it's entirely up to you.
I feel like it's all gold, though. It's so good.
I'll tell you what. I'll cut out that hour we talked about Paddington from the middle of the podcast. And
okay.
Then, we'll leave a little bit. But
I understand.
My husband was like, "Oh, was this podcast about Paddington?" And I was like, "No, she just really loves Paddington."
And we really love
when
Paddington.
I was listening back to it, and I really love Paddington. I was like, she just wanted to talk about Paddington. We're allowed to love Paddington.
We were just I don't know, a couple weeks ago, we were just flipping through the channels and Paddington was on. It was oh, that's our evening now. Just watch the whole Paddington.
One must.
I guess.
We're going to watch it again soon.
How's the Spanish going?
It's going well. I've kept up with it every single day since we last spoke.
Have you actually? Wow.
Yeah. I am doing Duolingo, and then I have 2 tutors who I meet with once a week each. And I've been slowly but steadily improving. I can, kind of string a sentence together. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm just learning the language that
adding skills.
It's so hard to learn a language, especially as an adult.
Right.
But so I'm constantly frustrated that I'm not better at it or not learning faster. But I'm doing it.
The thing is, now you need to move to Spain so you can immerse yourself in the language.
Yeah.
I guess in LA it'd probably be somewhat easy to immerse.
It is. It is actually very easy.
Yeah,
I can just kind of exist as I normally would here.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of exposure to it. But yeah, I also apparently both of my tutors, one who is from Mexico and the other is from Argentina, they're like, ugh, Spanish, blah. So I think they would be mad at me if I went to Spain to continue my Spanish education.
Their Spanish has a stupid lisp, right? You know that, right? It sucks. Why would you even do that?
Sorry to any listeners from Spain.
Spain, yes. We're yeah. That was just a harmless bit of poking fun. At, Spain. I love Spain. I had a great vacation in Spain.
I would love to travel there. Yeah,
it's great. I recommend the Pyrenees.
Ooh,
they're very nice, and I'll just recommend Spain. We did like a 2-week road trip in Spain, where we took a ferry from Britain to Spain, which was my insisting, because I love to take boats, like needless boats, whenever I can take a boat somewhere.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
I'm just like, why not? But there's also like a lot of dolphins you got to see from the boat, so it's really fun. And
wow, just like that part in Titanic when Jack's
know.
like, "Look at the dolphins."
I was going to ask about Titanic. Have you still been watching it regularly?
Yes.
it's fair.
Yes, I watch it probably once a month, and I can't explain why, but
And Josie and the Pussycats?
yeah, I guess I probably haven't seen that since we last spoke. So that one, I'm due for another rewatch, but
Yeah.
I wasn't keeping up with that one as much.
But you're very busy watching movies. You record 6 podcasts a month, 6 podcasts a month.
I was like, wow, that's really...
And that's a lot to go through. So.
Yeah. I'm very busy. Yes, it's true. Thank you so much.
it's a lot of movies. I really enjoyed your Da Vinci Code episode that came out.
Oh wait, you're a matron. Wow.
Yeah, I am.
my
That's actually something that's
goodness.
happened in the 6 months. Is I finally I stopped supporting Blank Check and I started supporting you guys. So
Thank
take that,
you.
Griffin and David.
Oh, yeah, take that, men.
They-
It's time
need
for
the
women to earn money.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I just moved some money around. Just like that. But yeah, and I really enjoyed that. I thought that was very funny.
Thank you so much.
Anyways, so your screenplay class. Did you finish your screenplay?
Oh, my pilot class, right? That's what
Your pilot class, yes. Yeah.
I did 3/4 of the class, and then I dropped out.
Nice.
Aw.
I had, a lot of things kind of came up all at once. One of which was I got scheduled for a surgery that ended up getting postponed, but I was like, well, I already dropped the class. But that, and then I forget what else, and it was also like right around the holidays, and I was just like getting overwhelmed with everything that was going on. So I did write the first 2 acts of like my 3-act pilot, but I forgot to keep working on it. So I have not done any of the things with it that I anticipated I might. Whoopsies.
But I
That's
just
all right.
feel like it's kind of, I don't know. I feel like the past year should just be erased. As in, like, it shouldn't count for anything. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like we should be being like, well done, you lived through this year. You know, like, that's like
Everybody gets a participation trophy for 2020.
Yeah.
Because
My birthday's coming up. It's been so tough. My birthday's coming up, and I
Yes.
am like technically turning 35, but like I don't have anything to show for the whole time I was 34. So I think I'm just gonna say I'm turning 34 again.
100%.
Sure.
I'm going to do the same.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. I really like that. I'm embracing that.
Yeah, it's not.
And you said earlier that did you say you had your tubes tied?
Yes. So that was
That's the language that you used. I feel like that's what you said. That is what you said, isn't it?
correct.
I think
yes.
you used the term spade.
I got I got neutered. Yes.
You're neutered, rather.
So that was
That's big
that was
news.
the surgery. Yeah, big news. I actually had two surgical procedures done in the time that we've last spoke. The first one, I got LASIK eye surgery done. So
nice.
Wow.
I can now see better with my eyeballs.
Fantastic.
And thank you so much.
Well done.
The second one was, the kind of like layman's term, colloquial term is getting your tubes tied. The whatever medical term is a tubal ligation. But basically, I have been sterilized. They chopped my fallopian tubes all up, and now
Chop them up?
Oh my
That
God.
sounds so brutal.
Sounds like it's like preparing
I
for
was-
stir fry.
I went to a Benihana. They chopped them up. They made a whole show of it. They tossed one into a hat. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not exactly that, but they're definitely severed now.
Right.
My tubes, and so this was a thing that I've been considering for many years. I basically, since I first learned about this as a procedure, because I've known since I was a child that I don't want to have children, and it takes many decades of convincing people that that is actually true, and that you're not gonna change your mind when you meet the right man, and like any other like bullshit things that people have said to me over the years. So I finally found a surgeon who was willing to perform the procedure, because a lot of them won't do it until you're 35, especially if you don't already have children, and especially if you are not married. They're like, well, you're going to meet someone, and then you're going to change your mind, and then you're going to have all these babies, blah, blah, blah. And
it's so nice that the medical community believes in you, and they believe in love.
I mean, they're just hopeless romantics, all of them.
I'm going to cry a little bit. I'm sorry. It's so sweet. Oh my God.
So finally, I was able to convince an OBGYN that I'm never going to change my mind about this. And he's like, cool, let's chop up those fallopian tubes. So that happened 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
Nice.
That's big. That's so exciting. How do you feel? Like, as in, since it's been done, how have you felt?
Pretty good. It was a pretty easy recovery, because I also had my gallbladder out like 1.5 years ago, and that recovery was pretty intense. Like, that's a just more major surgery that I was like just didn't bounce back from as quickly or easily. But yeah, this neutering really is a quick turnaround. So I went for like a run today. Like, I went outside for a jog and like felt fine about it. So I'm feeling pretty good.
Nothing fell out. That was great.
Nothing. My uterus didn't come detached and fall out of me. Anything like that. Although I'm not using this uterus. Get it out. I would have liked to have a hysterectomy, but they're like, probably not. But what feels just as good as like my physical well-being is I have such a peace of mind now. Like, the comfort of like knowing that I have that I was able to like achieve bodily autonomy, and that like I can just like, so that also feels great. So yeah. And
you bring up your gallbladder surgery, and people might not know this, but you had a side podcast from the normal Bechdelcast called Sludge, correct?
Yes.
Which was all about your struggles with the American healthcare system and getting your gallbladder surgery. Are you? And then after that was over, after your procedure was all done, you did some other episodes with people talking about their experiences.
Oh yeah, I had all these grand plans about how I would keep the podcast going and talk to other people about their kind of like healthcare horror stories. And then I got just like too busy to maintain any kind of like schedule with it. And then I was also just like, I mean, it's something I deeply care about, and it's something that's like I want to see reform about, like with the American healthcare system. But the few episodes I did after that, I was like, I'm out of my element here. Like, I don't have enough just knowledge of how this system works. I'm so much of an outsider that I like felt weird about just like continuing to do it. And I just like, I didn't have like the time or energy to do the research I would have needed to do. So I was just like, I'm going to put it on a hiatus. But I was like, I'll come back to it. And then that hiatus has now lasted over a year. So
yeah.
Whoops.
I never realized how hard it was to get a tubal ligation because there's an episode of, I think it might be the last episode you did.
It might be.
You interview, I think it's Megan Keister, right? Mm-hmm. And she had, and how like she had to basically like jump through all these hoops to get the procedure. And like when you say like, I found a doctor that would do it, it's like, it's, you basically have to find somebody who's willing to like just accept your word that you are a woman who wants to just not have a baby.
Mm-hmm. I talked to so many people about it, and they're just like, you're not gonna, no thanks. Even like when I was getting different forms of birth control, they were like, oh, this implant that we're putting in your arm that lasts for 3 years, aren't you gonna want to have a baby in that time? You're like prime baby having age, because I was like 28 at the time, and I was like, no, I'm sure. So
God,
it's frustrating. Yeah.
With the procedure, it always makes me think of someone like just taking the tubes and just like literally knotting them. But I'm assuming that's very different. So it's very much irreversible, right? Like I'm assuming that it is like an irreversible procedure.
I think so, although I'm actually not sure about that. There might be a reversing procedure that they can do, but I don't know. Maybe I'm making this up.
Because they say with vasectomies, right? That like as in within, if you there's a chance you can reverse it within 2 years afterwards or something like that.
Right.
Well, I had a friend who he got his vasectomy reversed and then he had 2 kids. So
What?
I don't know why I said 2 kids like that. Was
2 kids.
Two kids. Not only didn't it
That's
just work
crazy.
once, it worked twice.
But yeah, I think, again, I'm, believe it or not, I'm not a doctor. So I don't fully know.
What kind of education level have you achieved?
Well, I don't have an MD, but what I do have is an MFA, a master's degree, if you will, in screenwriting from Boston University. A fact that I've never brought that up before. I hate bringing it up.
You're loath to bring it up, but if it comes up organically.
Right.
I'm so grateful to hear that.
So I think I love the kind of the counterpoint to your podcast about Megan getting sterilized is you had I don't remember the dude's name, but he was like talking about a vasectomy. He's like, yep, just rocked up and they cut him and I walked out. And it was just like, nobody asked me any questions. Nobody questioned my decision making. Like,
yeah.
Wow.
He was just like, it was the simplest thing in the world.
Yeah. The dichotomy of like what it is to get neutered if you're a man or like I want to be as inclusive as possible, like if you have a uterus versus if you have testicles kind of thing. It is ovaries versus testicles. I guess that's a better analogy, but yeah, it is far easier to get sterilized if you've got testicles.
Gosh, that's crazy, isn't it? That is really, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense, really, because you would think that men would have just as many reasons that they would want to have children as women. So why would it be different?
The patriarchy.
Yeah, it's like, it's almost as if there's some kind of system of oppression.
And power stretching back many years.
I might be the first person to bring this up.
Matt just started feminism.
Yeah. Ladies, can I explain to you about the patriarchy, please?
Thank you, Matt.
Yes.
Excuse me, a man is talking.
I'm so sorry.
About why the patriarchy is bad. Okay? Let me just explain that. No.
Have you ever thought about it? Like, obviously, they've asked you about stuff with, like, partners and stuff. Has it been something that you've discussed with people in the past? And has anyone ever been like, what, you don't want to have kids, and been weird about it? Or has everyone been kind of on board with it?
As far as, like, romantic partners of mine?
Yeah.
Well, I would have needed to have one of those first to have a discussion about it, but I've obviously, casually dated, brag, but no, I have not been in, and I'm currently not in any kind of long-term relationship, which part of me was like, do I even need this right now? Because obviously, like, I'm not going to have like unprotected sex with someone I'm only like very casually seeing. This tubal like gate, like being sterilized is only gonna really work when I like do have someone that I'm like just raw dogging, but it's because like I trust them, and like we've both, we're not like transmitting STIs between each other, and that, we're in kind of a more committed relationship sort of thing. So but even so, even though I don't have that right now, I still just like wanted that autonomy over my body. Cause I imagine, I don't know, someday I'll be emotionally mature and available enough
to raw dog
to raw dog somebody.
We'll visualize that.
But
I'm just trying to grow as a person, so I can just hit it raw.
That is my main motivation. Yes.
That's so sweet. I'm gonna cry. Sorry, I'm just very emotional at this podcast. Some people, you and the AMA are just like.
What about the people that you dated? Like, was it something you talked about, or was it not like something that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've definitely told like different like men I've dated. Yeah, I'm not interested in having children ever, and many of them either said to me, "Oh, you'll change your mind when you get older," or they'd say like, "Oh, when you get married to whoever the lucky guy is," I'm like, okay, I guess this is going nowhere. Thanks.
Whoever that not me.
Whoever that not me man is, you're gonna decide, you're gonna change your mind.
Would it have been better if he was like, when you get married to me next month, as he gets down on one knee. Like, this is the first date, man.
Right. I would have just slapped the ring out of his hand. Yeah, so I've definitely gotten a lot of pushback from, the shitty toxic men I've dated.
Mm-hmm.
I even had a guy, like a man, we like had a bet. He was like, "Oh, I bet, I was like, I'm going to get sterilized as soon as I can." And he was like, "You'll never do that." And now I can actually like cash in on this bet. Trouble is, I don't remember that person's name or anything about it.
If you've ever bet Caitlin Durante that she'll never get sterilized, please contact us at 6monthslaterpod@gmail.com, and we will get you in contact with her. You are her, and a substantial amount of money.
It's hundreds of thousands of dollars by now.
I think with interest at this point, right?
Yeah.
She's also available for raw dogging anytime.
Don't contact us about that. Please don't contact us about wanting to raw dog Caitlin. That is not our area.
Yeah, contact me directly if that's
directly. Yeah, you got to slide into them DMs, man.
But anyway, so I had some notes because I think we had. Oh no, we've pretty much got through everything. As in, Matt, you were really on top of all the predictions and everything.
Yay.
Yeah, it turns out I didn't I talked a lot, but it was mostly just about Paddington. So we didn't cover a wide array of topics. It was really just like Paddington and then some more Paddington. Do you ever I was never able to keep a diary like at any point in my life, because if I like wrote an entry in like a diary or a journal, I would just like go back and read it like 1 or 2 days later, and I'd be like, "Oh, it was so awful from 2 days ago." Like, "Oh, remember how I used to be so terrible 3 days ago?" And I would just like be so mortified by just like what I thought was a problem, or like what I was like, "Oh, these aren't real problems." Like, I was such an idiot back then. Again, yesterday.
3 days ago, Caitlin did not have her shit together.
Right. And this is something that I've like done throughout my entire life. So when I was going back and listening to what we talked about 6 months ago, I was just like, "Oh, Caitlin, I don't know what was happening to me back then." And then in 6 months, when I listen to the whole thing, I'll be like, "Oh, Caitlin, why did you say any of the things you said?" Anyway, so that's what's going on.
Well, thankfully, you won't have to wait 6 months. This will be out on Monday, so you can feel bad about it then. So we're cutting down that time frame. I love that conversation. I thought it was really fun. I thought we just had a fun conversation. We don't. I mean, there's no expectations here. We don't have to talk about anything important. It's more like what we want to talk about is the things that are important to you now. Were important to you then. But then now, okay, wait. So, so time is a flat circle, and we wanted to talk about the things that are important to you then, and we want to talk about the things that are important to you now, and maybe they're not important to you anymore, and that's fine. It's all a journey. We're all on a journey.
It's true. So. Wow, beautiful. I'm gonna start crying now.
No, I'm gonna start crying again. So in the past 6 months, what's kind of the biggest change that you've experienced over the last 6 months, or the biggest thing that's happened to you?
In addition to, I think it's just like kind of like looking at the grand scope of it all, just like mentally being in a slightly better place, not only from like this medication I'm on now, like the comfort of like knowing that I have this bodily autonomy because of this surgery I had, And then also, it feels like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, not to quote California's governor or anything like that. But as far as like this pandemic, because we've all just like felt so isolated. I live alone, so like I'm rarely in contact with anybody. There's just like so many things that we all feel like we're missing out on. And but it feels like because of the vaccine being distributed, things have just been kind of slowly seeming like they are going to return to something resembling normal sometime kind of soon. I actually might be coming to the UK in November because it seems like people will be vaccinated by then, and that it's gonna like stick and work and stuff like that, because my friend Martha is getting married and I've been invited to her wedding, and I haven't RSVP'd quite yet because we're still, no one's quite sure if that's gonna work out or not, but it seems like I'm gonna be able to like anticipate going there in November, so looking forward to that, hoping that happens.
Yeah, every save the date card I've gotten this over the last year, I've been like, good luck with that, asshole.
Right?
But November might actually work out for your friend Martha. Where in the UK is she?
She's in Salisbury.
Okay.
Is that bad?
No, I'm still laughing at Matt and how horrible he is, but I really hope for your friend that it does work out.
I hope your friend, I don't know, man. I got like right as the pandemic started, I got like a save the date for like July, and I was like, no, what are you, nuts?
Yeah, that's not gonna.
Yeah,
no one can come to that.
And then I don't know, like sometime before the end of last year, I got to save the date for a wedding in Maine. I think it's in April or something, and I'm like, what? I can't fly, right? Like, it's illegal for me to leave this country. Like, that's not a thing that can happen.
Right.
Anyways.
Do you listen back to your podcasts? Like, as in, do you listen back to the podcasts you've done?
Well, I edit them all, so I have to. Yeah, after we've recorded, I've got to sync all the tracks up and edit it all together and stuff. So, yes, I do that.
How do you find that?
I kind of find it therapeutic. I like to take kind of like a raw, either like the first draft of a script or like a raw audio file and like polish it. That's like something that I find to be therapeutic. It's also very time consuming though. I mean, Matthew, like
yeah.
Editing takes a million billion years. But yeah, I don't mind it. It's fine. Everything's good.
Yeah. I actually am starting to worry about how much I listen to, because I do the editing and that takes forever. And then when it comes out, like I subscribe to my own podcast and then I listen to the podcast for quality control as well. But then also because I think I just like the sound of my own voice.
Of course, yeah.
I'm like, this guy gets me. Like his sense of humor is really like...
That's nice. It's so nice that you feel like that.
No, I feel like it makes me a psychopath. Like, that cannot be healthy.
I don't think so. I mean, it just means that you like what you're doing and that you're like proud of what you're doing and you're putting content out there that you enjoy or that like you would otherwise listen to even if it wasn't your project. So I think that's lovely. And in fact, I'm crying again.
Stop that. It's the most emotional podcast we've ever done.
It's funny. I feel the opposite. I actually, But anyway.
That you hate this?
No, as in, I always think you sound really funny and really good, Matt, and you, Caitlin, all the many times you've been on the podcast. And the time that you were, I was actually, do you know what? I actually want to say, listening back, I'd been feeling really down, as I've already discussed. But listening back to your half episode, I felt so much better. I was like, I felt really like upbeat about life. It just really made me feel, and I felt excited to talk to you. And yeah, it was really nice. So whatever you were feeling negative about, if you you should not feel negative about it. It was a really lovely
I'm just very self-critical. I think it's because we talked about Paddington so much. Paddington just like lifts your spirits.
Yeah,
Because-
it's true.
I mean, people, I mean, I don't know. People aren't tuning into this podcast, full stop. And people aren't tuning into this podcast for news. They just want to hear people talk about the things that they love. And I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I hope that people listen for anyways.
Yeah, and if you're not listening to it for that reason, then get off up.
Yeah. Get the fuck out
Get
of
out of
here.
here.
Was there was something, is there anything else, Matt? There's I feel like there's another question that we're meant to ask.
Yes. So what is next for you, Caitlin?
Ooh, let's see. I have hopefully joining you too in the UK. Or Tara, where do you live?
I'm in the UK as well.
You are?
I'm
Okay.
in Berkshire. I'm in Berkshire, so I live about like 40 minutes from Matt in Oxford.
Got it. Right. So maybe I'll be in Salisbury, that area, hopefully in November. Let's see what else is coming up. I mean,
Salisbury's really nice, isn't it? Matt, have you been to Salisbury?
Is that where Stonehenge is?
I think or it's
Yeah,
nearby.
I don't actually. I've been to Stonehenge, but I don't
Wait,
know.
now I
if
gotta look this
but
up.
I've definitely I feel like it's really nice around there.
I hope I can go.
It all starts to run together for me.
That would be fab.
If you're looking for shows, hit me up and I can probably
Thank
arrange
you.
something.
Well, I'm like, do I even do comedy anymore? I haven't done stand up in like
yeah.
over a year, so I'm
That's
like,
how I
ugh.
felt too.
Well, yeah. Well, bring Jamie with you and you can do a live podcast.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that would be amazing.
That was really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you guys were talking about doing an education. You should do it in Oxford. I think that's a good Oxford.
Oh
movie.
yeah. Because is that the campus that they're on?
Yeah, it's where she goes.
Yeah.
In the end, she goes to Oxford, or like it's a whole thing.
Right. Oh my
So-
gosh. Let's see what else. So maybe some travel. Maybe I'll return to doing stand up. Who can say? I hope to be vaccinated soon. I'm getting a haircut soon. Big major things.
Oh,
Yay!
my tubes have been cut. Now it's time for my hairs to
you're
get cut.
footloose and fancy free.
And I think that's about it as far as like things that I'm pretty certain will happen.
When you go to the hairdresser, you're going to be like, can you give me a haircut that says, this girl is sterilized?
Yeah. Excuse me, I'm single and ready to raw dog. Can
That's
you give
literally
me
what I was thinking.
that haircut?
Like hashtag raw dogging.
Yeah. That's now your Bumble profile. It's boys, if you're not ready to raw dog, then you're not ready for Caitlin.
So you've got haircuts coming up. You've got the whole world is your oyster, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So that's exciting.
Yeah. Raw dogging, etc.
Raw dogging.
Travel, haircuts, unprotected
I feel like
sex.
you should put that on like your Tinder profiles and stuff, because I feel like it's gonna be like that must be enticing, right? Like it must be nice to like not have to worry about that.
Yeah, men don't like to use condoms.
Newsflash.
I've found. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Caitlin, God, it's been so nice talking to you. You're so cool. So
Thank you for having me.
and no, it's been very fun, and yeah, thanks for being on the podcast and everything. Is there anything you want to plug?
Oh, you can check out the Bechdelcast, the podcast I do with Jamie Loftus plus guests where we talk about film through an intersectional feminist lens. If you're interested in learning screenwriting from me, a master in screenwriting with my master's degree in it, which again I would never ever bring up.
According to everybody at Boston University.
Yes. I teach online screenwriting classes, and you can find information about that from my website, CaitlinDurante.com. And other than that, just check out Paddington 1 and 2.
Yeah, it'll make your day.
It will, yes.
And look out for the third one, which should be out with Ewan McGregor as the villain any day now.
Caitlin, thanks again so much for being on the podcast. And,
the pleasure is all mine.
Take care.
Yay,
Bye.
thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.
What that was fun. It's nice
Yeah.
to have a less abusive guest.
She's a fantastic guest. I really like Caitlin so much.
Yeah, she's really nice. How have the last 6 months been for you?
Oh, I wrote some notes about what was going on in our lives. So you were voting.
I was voting.
You
I
made
did
the
that.
right choice.
I did. My state didn't, so it kind of pissed my vote
Disappointing.
away. So, but I still made my voice heard, and yeah. And now they're making it harder to vote. When I say they, I mean Republicans. And, so.
Are they actually?
Oh my God, yeah. You haven't heard about this?
No.
I don't know why would you? It's not your country. You don't have to care about it. But a lot of Republicans in like every red state, any state where they have any kind of control, they're all like tightening up voting because they looked at record turnout and they were like, oh shit, shouldn't do that again. Especially like Georgia and Texas and all these places there. Just trying to just end voting forever unless you're a white dude. So. But you said Will discovered the wonder of garam masala. Has he been making a lot of dishes with garam masala?
To be honest, I don't even know if he's made one dish with it. Like,
did he get it just because he's like, I just want to have it.
I think that's genuinely why. I have no idea. I mean, it sort of was one of those things listening back where you're like, God, that is just so sad, but also still kind of exactly representative of our lives today. So yeah, I mean, we're not really doing anything particularly more exciting than that at the moment, although we are now allowed obviously to meet up in a garden, which is exciting. So we're gonna probably go to his mom's for Easter and be in her garden.
Oh, nice.
So
we're having some folks over for Easter, or
you
on
are?
Sunday, not for Easter, but yeah.
Who are you having over?
Nobody you know. Don't worry about it.
Who the hell are you having over?
No, our friends Jesse and Dinah, they're coming over and for like lunch, and I think
Oh,
we had
so cute.
a couple friends come over last night for a drink
In the
between
garden.
work
That's
and
so
dinner.
nice.
Yeah, so
I love the way I added in the garden just to make it legal. Like,
yeah, no, in the garden, yeah, absolutely. We just added our table.
that's good.
outside. Yeah.
That's exciting. Yeah, I think in some ways the predictions about, your predictions of clear skies and finished closets.
Nope, that didn't happen. My closet is still very much unfinished. Actually, I listened to that earlier this week, and I was like, oh, I should do some work on the closet.
No.
And I put up one of those rods, that you put hangers on. What's that called?
A hanging, I have no idea. What do you mean?
Like a hanger rod? Yeah.
Like a,
For
yeah.
a closet pole. A clopole, they call it. Anyways, yeah, whatever that's called. I had one of those sitting around forever, and I needed to cut it to length and then just put like 6 screws in it, and now it's done. And it's like I could have done that months ago. But I still need to build a bunch of drawers. Actually, it made me reflect on like I bought all this lumber that came 6 months ago, and I did exactly one thing with it. And I had like 3 big projects I was going to undertake, and I did one of them, and I didn't even finish it. So I'm kind of and it's funny because I part of the closet that I built has a desk in it, so that's where I'm sitting right now. So I'm always facing it and always thinking about how it's unfinished, and yet I do nothing about it. And
Maybe this is the week, Maybe this is the week.
it actually is a nice week for it because the weather is really nice this week, so hopefully can get on some stuff. I don't know.
I'm getting my flooring done, if that's something to be really excited about.
No way. The flooring's back.
The flooring's back.
Guys, the flooring's back. The flooring's back.
Has anyone else been worrying about my floors?
A little bit.
Yeah, we've booked it in for May now, so I'm trying to source that at the moment. And we're really like getting on top of this. We've been sort of talking about whether we're gonna maybe move to Australia at some stage, so we're trying to get stuff organized, like not in the near immediate future, but more just like down the line. So I'd kind of no further than 6 months, I would say, like probably more like, if anything, it'd be, I don't know, we're not even like set on it at the moment. It's more just a discussion, and I think we want to get this place to being like of a standard where it's either sellable or rentable. So that's kind of my big project at the moment, is like organizing everything, like just getting it up to scratch.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's nice. It was funny hearing about Charlie being so unhappy at nursery 6 months ago.
I was gonna say, how's that been going?
Thanks for remembering, Matt.
I got it on my notes. I wrote it on my notes. Look, I wrote Charlie. You can't read that because I can't read it, but Charlie back to school.
Oh, that's sweet of you. He the lovely thing reading that back is that he's so happy there now. Like, he literally, I asked him the other day, I was like, what's your favorite thing to do? And he said playing playing with his friends at nursery. And it just made me really happy because, you know, he's happy again. He's happy to be there, and that's just really, really nice. So yeah, so that's beautiful. And, you know, obviously it's been a tough week in some ways. I think I don't know why, I just have this like dread about certain things. Like, I don't know whether it's comedy or I don't know. I think maybe, do you know what's weird? I feel like in some ways I'm almost anxious about lockdown ending, which I'm not even sure I don't know if it makes actual sense, but like I'm excited for it to end, but at the same time I feel maybe slight anxiety about returning to normal life or something, and the expectations that await, and maybe I just need to take a break from my own expectations on myself.
Well, yeah, it's like when lockdown, now we don't have any excuse for not doing anything.
Yeah. What's your excuse for not building your closet? You can't be like, well, it's lockdown, I can't build my closet because lockdown's happening. So yeah.
So, and have you have any thoughts on Turkish Delight? Have you had any in the last 6 months? It still sucks, right?
I just don't eat it. It's very sweet.
It's terrible.
And it's just very you know,
does
squishy.
It taste like flowers? It's not even good.
It's squishy. It's got powder on the outside. It doesn't make any sense. It's a confusing sweet.
Yeah. Don't bother people.
Just don't do it to yourself.
Turkish Delight 1 star.
Especially rose water ones, like ugh.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Rose water is the weirdest flavor.
Why does anybody want to eat anything that tastes like roses? It's disgusting.
It is disgusting.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Please, if you can, rate and review wherever you get this podcast, and tell a friend, tell an enemy, or tell a stranger on the street. And, you know, just I mean, if you could just make a sign about the podcast and put it in your window, but only if it's like a high traffic area. But like
that would be ideal.
That would be ideal. I think that would be really best, because it's like you want to stay socially distant, but I know you want to tell people about the podcast.
Yeah.
So please share wherever you can, and I can't think of any better way than a sign in a window.
Yeah.
And if you want to follow us, we're 6 Months Later Pod on all the things, and you can check us out there. You can contact us directly at 6monthlaterpod@gmail.com, or you can go to our website 6monthlaterpod.com. What a surprise! If you want to see what Tara's up to, you can do that.
Yeah, you can talk to me, like whatever. You feel free to get in touch. I am currently still on the handle at Tara NW Comedy, but I am considering changing it in the future. So if you can't find me on that, feel free to just Google Tara Newton Wordsworth, and you might find me, unless I've just become a secret person, in which case you won't find me. But hopefully we can still look. We can still stay in touch through this podcast, social media.
Yeah.
And Matt, you are on.
I'm M. Shadorn on the things. I'm not much for social media these days. I don't want to. Sometimes if you go to Instagram, sometimes there's a picture of my baby on there, and it's fun.
Yay.
He's a cutie. But if you want more from me, I make other actual media, and including I have another podcast that is called Comedy Killed the Video Star. And this week, it finally happened. I'm talking to somebody about WAP.
Yes!
I'm so excited. I got Caitlin Bailey, who you might remember from episode 4, sex worker advocate, host of the Oldest Profession podcast. And I also got her chief historian, Dr. Charlene Fletcher. They're both on to talk about WAP. They are ridiculously smarter than me. And I look dumb. Real fucking dumb. I am a worthless clown, and they are the smartest people ever. If you listen to the podcast.
I can't wait to listen to that.
It is a fun discussion about WAP. So, and it's very insightful. They are very insightful and very intelligent people. And yeah, so it's going to be delightful to listen to. So check that out. Comedy Killed the Video Star, wherever you get this podcast. Check that one out too. And if you want to support this, we're on Patreon. You can get extended interviews. We're also on, I forgot about this until Alistair mentioned it a couple episodes ago, but we do have a Ko-fi account. So you can just give us money if you want to give us just like a one-off tip. That would be really great as well. So just look for Q.E.D. Comedy Lab on Ko-fi, and you can just send us a tip that way, and that'd be really nice as well if you don't want to make the commitment of Patreon. But if you go to patreon.com, 6 months later, you can get extended interviews, and that's also fun. So thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you next week.
In 6 months.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah, because we don't want people writing in and being like, we think this is different.
It's all fake.
Yeah.
God, if anybody wrote in, I'd be stoked.
Yeah. We've got a complaint. Yay.
Yeah.